Troops, good morning. We are back. It's day 28 of the Wellbeing Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Si Gowing, and we're just going to build on yesterday's episode, which was talking about relax, in brackets, stress well. So once we can relax well, we can then have a good night's sleep, which is pillar number 2, which links me on to this episode, which we're going to talk about sleep and how it's linked to weight gain. And we're going to talk about that weight gain for 2 reasons. Number 1, I've been listening to Matt Walker's PhD sleep podcast, and also yesterday I listened to Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett and Johan Hari's podcast on the new thriving weight loss injection called Ozempic that I'd never heard of, which is a weight loss injection that has been around for about 18 to 20 years, primarily used for diabetics, and it's extending their lives by many years, adding years to their lives by preventing heart attacks and cancers, etc. So that leads me on to, and the second point is because it's the second pillar of what I call a skill in the Wellbeing Made Easy community. First one being relaxing well, and then you can go to bed well, sleep well, and you can move well, which I'm doing now on the move, out walking in a very damp overnight wet weather in the UK, and then we can eat well, and then we can connect well. So sleep then. So the importance of sleep, the book, really recommended, or definitely tuning into him, is Matt Walker, who's a British sleep scientist out in the States, or Canada I think it is. You may have seen his book, which is Why We Sleep. It's a white book, definitely in the UK, with a brass door handle, Why We Sleep, Matt Walker. It's very hard read. You fall asleep, and he encourages dipping in and out of consciousness. It's very small print, and it's really hard, and it's quite hard trying to read it when you are tired at night as well, so that doesn't help. So it took me about 6 to 8 months just to keep revisiting and chipping away at that. So sleep and weight loss, and when I teach my weight management clients on the 12-week weight management program, I always mention from my experience that it's not what you're eating, it's how you're eating and when you're eating, and we want to be flicking over that fight and flight response, sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous system, and that's what I talked about yesterday. So you can rest. Morning.
You are nice, no? So somebody do that.
Lights on. Oh yeah, he might be just dropping something off. Somebody's left their lights on in the van. So rest and digest. And I talked about this yesterday, switching over the high aroused, high cortisol stress response of the fight and flight response, the sympathetic nervous system, which is going to help you get away from a saber-toothed tiger, and switching it over to rest and relax. But on the topic of weight loss, if we can do that, taking a couple of deep breaths before we eat food, slowing down, and also, when we eat, not too late before you go to bed. You don't want too much food in your stomach an hour or two before you go to bed, especially fibre, because it's so hard to digest, metabolise. And you don't want that trying to circulate around the system when you're trying to optimise your sleep. We'll talk about optimising sleep on another sleep topic session, and we'll talk a bit more about that. So linked to weight loss. So there's lots of studies out there. Matt talks about this on his podcast, how it's linked. Lack of sleep is linked to obesity, and he was talking about those who have shorter sleeps, less sleep duration. 55% of adults have got a increased risk of obesity, And the scary thing is 80 plus, I think 89%, 82 to 89%, I think he says, children. So 55 adults and 80 plus for children. And also it decreases the metabolism, which is then going to help you gain weight, and you don't want to be doing that, so that's not helped. Also talks about just 1 hour lost sleep, 1 hour of lost sleep, 23% increase just only over an hour for adults, and 13% adults 23% risk of obesity for adults, and 13% for children. I think with just 1 hour. I might have got them the wrong way around. It might be 13% for adults and 23% for children. But the point is, 1 hour's lack of sleep can significantly improve your obesity rates as a negative. And the reason why, you've got some appetite regulated or hormones called leptin and ghrelin. Leptin, which is led to believe from the gut, which tells you you're full and you don't need to eat no more. And then you've got the ghrelin, which is the hunger, which is telling you need to eat more and keep eating. And it plays around with them, and then obviously that leads to weight gain, and that's down to sleep. Okay, you got rapid eye movement sleep, non-rapid eye movement sleep. It's broken down into sleep stages. We'll talk more about this. But the bottom line is, I'm just going to get away from this air blower, the gardeners. But lack of sleep, they're saying from the research, from big meta-analysis as well, obviously there's correlation and causation, and they've looked at both studies, and there's much studies out there. Matt talks about this in his work and on his podcast, which I'll link into the episode notes of this. And you're gaining, those who are lacking of sleep, so just take this note on board, an extra 200 to 500 calories extra per day. So if you're not prioritising sleep like a lot of people, because a lot of people don't take sleep seriously, definitely in this country, we do not take sleep seriously, so we over caffeinate. It's two of the biggest findings in his book, really, what he's talking about. Insights is number one, we don't take it seriously, and I used to say it, I'll sleep when I'm dead, and silly things like that, and then you underestimate, not that I'm overweight or gaining weight, but an extra 200 to 500 calories per day. If you just to add 500 calories consumption because you're tired, not thinking straight, and your body's craving it because of the appetite regulated hormones, as I just mentioned, leptin and ghrelin, or the ghrelin, and then you're going to eat more, and then that's going to gain weight. And 500 calories extra, times it by 7 days a week, that's 3,500 calories, which will give you, congratulations, you've got an extra pound in weight. So over 6 to 8 months, you're looking at stone. And this is why most people gained about half a stone, couple of kilograms in weight during the COVID period, and they may have had more sleep, but stress and worry and all that sort of stuff. So sleep, really, really important. And those who know my sleep sort of journey, if you like, which I'm a couple of years in on it, still not perfect, and we'll do another episode on sleep, and we'll talk about optimization of sleep, just give you some hints, tips, hacks, like you can chip away, keeping you a cool room, maybe sleep divorce, separate beds for a short period of time, hot shower, bath, etc., pillar spray, to essences, to meditation, to relaxation. It's loads of stuff. We'll talk about all this. And when I was falling asleep, when my little tiny human was wanting to play, she still wanted to play Barbie now, and I was coming home from work and I was tired, so I thought that's not good. I needed to sort of man up, get a grip and optimize sleep. And then I checked out sleep. I think it was a podcast with Jay Shetty, Think Like a Monk, and I think it was Matt Walker on YouTube a few years back. Plugged in, realised the importance of it and what we're doing to our brains and the damage we're doing by just not having sleep. We spend a third of our life sleeping, a third of our life eating, and a third of our life working, apparently. So if we're nailing the exercise, the movement and the eating, we're definitely nailing the work, because we've got to pay the bills, and we just need to now switch gears and focus and start prioritizing sleep, not just for weight loss, but for optimum health, focus, productivity, cellular energy, etc, etc. So lots and lots of benefits, more than you think. The brain recycles, it jet washes itself overnight, and it just allows you to dream and reset for the next day. So lots and lots and lots of benefits, really serious. And two big takeaways I really say on my weight management classes, as these people are struggling, I say, listen, it's not what you're eating, it's when you're eating and how you're eating. So let's just slow down. And people in the class are giving some little tips and little hacks. And I say the two biggest things is sleep. If you can focus on your sleep, that's going to help. And I've got one lady, a Spanish lady who's over here for 10 years, has gained a lot of weight, not blaming the country. And she's teaching Spanish to the children in the classes. Gained weight, I think she nearly died, to be honest, for whatever reason, heart problems. And she's in the class, GP referral. She's not that big, to be honest. And she's now prioritising. She said the other day that she looked completely different, recharged and everything. And she's gone to bed, and she was never in bed before 12 midnight. And sometimes she'd be fighting through and killing her brain and her body. And I was like, what? Doctor's orders, you told you in the class and you're not sleeping. Now, there's not a set topic on sleep within the class, but I want, because something's got to give, we have to pull something else out, because it's only 12 weeks to insert sleep. But if it was my class, if I owned the course and it was mine, and this is why I'm prioritising it, you can't have a good night's sleep if you're stressed to the max, stressed to the hilt, and that's why I've put in order. Doesn't have to be in order, but you can't go to bed and try and optimize your sleep if you're completely stressed out to the maximum. You've been on devices, junk light, you're watching scary movies, you're listening to the news, the negativity sort of stuff. You can't do that, and that's why I've put relax first, relax well, get into a state, and then you can optimize your sleep. And then you sleep, you get up a little bit early if you want, you go for a walk in nature, that's the third box ticked. You have some food, healthy nutritious food for breakfast, whatever time you call breakfast. It might be 6 o'clock in the morning, it might be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it doesn't really matter. Don't be fixed on the old system. We're 365 24/7 these days, so don't be fixed on that, because people are literal. We're up or down, in or out, black or white. It doesn't work like that. And then we can connect, we can reach out and connect with people we haven't touched base with for a while, and get that that daily dose, DOSE, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin and endorphin fix by reaching out to loved ones, friends, family, people we've not spoken to for a while, find out how they're getting on, and that gives us a real good buzz and thrive, sets us up. And then basically talked about sleep, the importance of, and for weight loss, and I talk pretty much about it every other session. I drop it in there. If they can, number one, focus on sleep, don't change anything else that I'm talking about in the class, and focus on sleep, you'll see a massive difference, mind, body and spirit, and sleep. And then I also talk about nose breathing, which sounds daft, but we've become lazy. We're lazy as humans anyway. We take the path of least resistance all the time because it's an energy efficient system and it's really good, so we don't worry about spending too much energy on brushing our teeth, driving, etc., making a cup of tea. It's all energy efficient mode, which is good. And so anyway, I always ask her, I do a quick review of the previous week. What have you learned? What have you done? What takeaways insights did you take from last week's session? Have you implemented any? And basically she's been having an extra 3-4 hours sleep a night. Now this is quite extreme, you know. And then she says, oh yeah, I go to bed now at 12 o'clock at night. I'm like, what? So you was up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning doing your work and worry whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So she's going to bed, which is really late, especially if you're up like I am at 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm going to be in bed for 8, half 8 now. I've not been for a while because I've been a bit busy, but and I'm just like, wow. And 3 or 4 hours. I'm not saying the weight's dropping off of her because weight loss is very complex, okay? But just a quick example there of one person who's declared sleep is massively helping. So we'll talk more about that. And the second part to this is I wanted to talk about something that I've never not looked into, not paid attention to, was this new, and it's not the first intervention of the Ozempic, OZEMPIC, which is this new weight loss, even though it's targeted at diabetics, and it's adding years to their lives for a few reasons, and I want to make sure I've got this right, and I am not promoting weight loss injections. And then when Johan Hari talks, who's got a book on lost connection, stolen focus. I've mentioned this before. He's a really good guy, and Johan Hari was a little bit podgy, a little bit plump. Really good author, really good speaker. And lost connection and stolen focus. Talking about lost connection, we're more connected than ever, but we're more disconnected with ever, especially on, we're so busy, pings, dings and rings, we're not connected with people as much. Lost connection, he talks about, we're lost and the damages of it, physically, mentally, etc. And also he talks about stolen focus, how our attention spans have gone, 3 or 4 seconds now, and we're flitting, we're flitting the brain, attention switching from this, pings, dings, rings, which is draining our energy, fueling depression, suicides, etc. And he's just brought a book out called Magic Pill, and I had a couple of screenshots. I'm following him on social, and a couple of screenshots flew past me, and I thought, and he'd lost lots of weight. This was about a month or 2 ago. He'd lost lots of weight, and I thought, what's gone off there? That's not him. And then I just saw his new book, so it might have been an Instagram ad saying, Magic Pill, the book. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I couldn't connect the dots with his work on lost connection and stolen focus, and now he's talking about weight loss. But it didn't connect, but I just thought felt a bit weird as I saw it. So anyway, yesterday when I was driving from my day job to my evening weight management classes, I just searched podcasts and just clicked on, it was Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, and also Johan Hari talking about weight loss. And I thought, and the Ozempic. So I thought, oh, right, bang, and it was 2 hours. I'll link it below in the episode notes. And I just thought, let's have a listen. So I listened to an hour, fascinating. Both positive and negative, upsides and downsides of it, and that he's actually been using it for about a year, and as he's wrote this book, he's been travelling around the world interviewing the scientists of it. I think it's Dutch, Danish or Swiss, I think it is, the pharmaceutical, the engineers that's built it. But it's been going for about 20 years, and like I say, it's knocking years off chances of getting, I think, cancer, a certain cancer. It's knocking years off. It's not, I'm not saying it's stopping get heart attacks, but it's extending lives of diabetics, and they've had it for about 18 years, and it was for diabetics, and I think with people with breast cancer, I think. Anyway, so now the version of Ozempic now, and there's another version coming out called triple whatever, and he's talking about how he came across it. He's always flitting backwards and forwards. He's British, but he's flitting backwards and forwards every month or two from to the States and back to the UK, and he's mixing with a lot of celebs and stuff. And he went, I think it was LA, and they're all taking it. And basically, I think it's one injection a week, this is going to be becoming into a pill form, because there's a lot of psychological issues with taking an injection. Is it right ethically, yada yada yada, which he talks about. Anyway, so it's sort of the magic pill, hence that's why it's called the book Magic Pill. With his research, he's been out to Japan and all sorts of places, but just to keep it short, so he basically was chatting with people, made a comment to someone, as all these people out in LA that he's mixing with have all gone slim, high cheekbones, that sort of stuff. And he made a comment, and next minute he's like, what? This is madness. And he's always struggled with his weight. He's got heart problems in his family. I think his dad, his granddad, etc. So he's concerned, and he's just, as at the point of this podcast, he talks about that he's already, I think he's 46 years of age, and I think he's 46, I think he's already lived 1 year longer at 46 than I think he said his dad, maybe. So this is the concern for him, who struggled with his weight, and he's used to eating KFCs and big oversized meals and just enjoying life for comfort. And so anyway, long story, he gave this Ozempic a try, and that's a year ago, and he's lost 3 stone, which is not groundbreaking, but he's got dropped from 33% body fat down to 22% body fat. This is what he's talking about in the podcast, so I'll link it into the episode notes. And it's interesting, but what it does, it kills your appetite. 80% kills your appetite, 80%. So, and as he's still on this stuff, as he's flitting backwards and forwards between countries, continents, he's going into his same restaurants, ordering his same food, and he's looking at it going, I don't even need this. So it's suppressing his appetite. He's having 2 bites, and then it's like waste of money, and that's what it's doing now. It's early days, and I'm not promoting this at all. And then he talks about where have we come from. And if you look at a photograph in the 1970s, when I was brought up, I was born in 76, so I'm 48 now. You look at everyone on a beach in the UK, and they're all skinny, all thin. And then if you look at now to gastric bypasses and stomach stapling, there's 4 levels of that, apparently, 4 different ones. That brings a lot of psychological trauma, but again, it's life-saving. It absolutely saves people's lives, which I was against any intervention. I was just the old-fashioned mindset of, like we have been for the last 30, 40 years, the message has been do more exercise and just sort your diet out. And as I know, teaching weight management, and some people can't move off a chair, some people can't, they've got oxygen tank with oxygen pumped into their nose via a pipe. It's more complex than what we think it is. And so when you look at the spectrum from where we've come from to your gastric bands, your gastric bypass, which is adding years to people's lives, by the way, and it's controlling the leptin and ghrelin and stuff, and it's filling hunger. And he talks about when people there's 5 reasons why people gain weight he talks about. One is for comfort, and he also talks about, quite sadly, in a humbling voice, that a lot of women that he found out who were sexually raped by, and he talks about a girl that was raped by her grandfather at a young age, deliberately gained weight as she's growing up. So sorry everybody, I know it was quite sick, and I didn't realise stuff I need to get out more, but how then she thought, right, let me keep gaining weight so I become fat and overweight, and then nobody will look at her or nobody will touch her, so she'll be safe. Really sick and sad. What people go through, where you just judge an overweight person, and once people are thin, we look at people differently. Talked about this on when our personal biases and the bystander effect and stuff the other day, so go back, listen to that. And it's just shocking, really, the reasons behind, an overweight person. There's a lot of trauma, a lot of psychology, not in all cases, but he was talking about this, and how life-saving that gastric bypass surgery is, but also it's got a lot of psychological issues and psychiatry treatment that's needed after that. What you've done, should I have done it, is it right, is it wrong, because you're playing along with biology. And then he obviously got the Zempic thing now. He said this is not the first thing. He said the research goes back to the 70s, the sort of hippie days, if you like, when he mentioned it's amphetamines. People were then jumping on the bandwagon of amphetamines, which was then slimming people down like crazy. And again, a load of sort of brain damage and psychological trauma came out of that. And then where we are now with this Zempic, which is going to get more popularised, and more people are going to jump on it. Now, the accessibility of it at the moment is you can get it from pretty much off. You can buy it yourself offline, and in the UK it's about £250 per month to stop your hunger, which and then most people, I think 73%, or I think once you've stopped taking this, you gain 70%, 73% of your weight. And then he talks about an example of a friend of his who was going to die, heart problems, diabetes, lose limbs, and then he takes it now, and it gives him a quality of life. He can walk over the Manhattan Bridge, I think, daily with his dog, and it's changed his life. And he said, listen, what do I do? I want to live longer, or do I just die? So that was a personal story of his friend, and I think he was saying he was talking about the ups and downs of it, the psychological effects of it, and he was talking about the psychological treatment after it, with you injecting, and also talking about psychological treatment after if it's counselling, therapy, or psychiatric support from after having the gastric bands and stuff. He's not had one, I don't think, but yeah, you've got one end of the spectrum on the beach, all skinny, thin, and then all the way to where we are now. And the food companies are literally killing us these days with all the ultra processed, ultra highly treated, and all these neuromodulators, which in the ready meals and all this sort of stuff that's playing around with the neurochemistry in the body, which is causing us to eat more and more and more and more, and it's crazy. And he was talking about that all the government can do if they make some changes. They did it with salt in the UK. They looked at the salt in bread, and that was all protested, and salt's reduced. But again, the government need to intervene. And he talks about Japan. He talks about Japan, and he flew out to Japan to see what they was doing, and they're the longest living nation on the planet, the Okinawa, and the Blue Zones. If you haven't seen the Netflix Blue Zones, then definitely go to watch that. It's definitely worth a 3-part documentary. Blue Zone Diets, Dan Buettner, came out in August. Definitely go watch that. Talks as one of the 5 areas with the most dense populated number of centurions, over 100. Anyway, so Johan Hari went out to Japan, met a 102-year-old in a community centre who was dancing, singing, yada, yada, yada. And they was talking about children over there. They're all walking. The culture is they're all walking to school, there and back. They're not allowed packed meals. The Japanese anyway, they eat 5 dishes. I think pretty much every meal. It might be slightly wrong. And they eat a bit from each dish, which slows you down, rest and relax. A bit from each dish and go around like that. Whereas we eat the starter, the main, and then the dessert. That's what they do, which slows the system down so you don't eat as much. They've also got a rule and a ritual of once you're 80% full, then you don't eat no more. 80% full, can you imagine the mindset? And this is from 5 years of age upwards. This is bred into their culture. And he talks about all this. And so we've got to have big interventions. Food companies are killing us, which we pretty much know about. They've turned to profit making machines compared to the health of the nation, unfortunately. Children are affected. It's really scary. When I cycled home the other week, there was 2 obese children, and they must have been about 11. Really bad. And I thought, wow, this is the future. And it's not their kids' fault, maybe not the parents' fault, but we really need to. And there's things you can do. I think it was in Mexico. I think people struggling incomes. They made healthy food, the cheapest food. So there's lots of stuff Johan Hari saying we can do. You look at smoking. Smoking, people said it'll never work. Tobacco companies, you're never going to beat them, yada, 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 yada. And now hardly anybody smokes. People used to smoke in pubs, in the laundrette, in their houses, in their cars, everywhere. In the classroom, doctors used to smoke, put the cigarette down, sort the patient out. And now we've got a no smoking culture. So it can happen at larger scales. But again, it's shocking. So I'm not promoting Ozempic. It's my first sort of exposure to having a look at it. I'm not promoting it at all. It's early days. We don't know the fallout of it yet. But the sad thing is, I think in the States, which is costing about $1,000, $1,200 at the moment, there's debates and arguments going, doctors should prescribe it only. And I think one of my clients piped up yesterday in the class saying, I've asked my doctor about it and they won't prescribe it. So it might be mixed views, mixed opinions, mixed policies here in the UK, I don't know. But what's scary is that I think parents are injecting their children with this, but if it's life-saving, it's cutting hunger, yes, it's an intervention, but it's and that's only on one topic. And a new version's coming out soon, apparently, which is like a XXX, and this version, what it does, it's a gut. I think there's about 18 to 20 gut hormones, I believe. And this is targeting one gut hormone. And then the other one, the XXX, is going to target 3 gut hormones. And apparently Professor Tim Spector, London Kings, is sort of all for this, because what he said is the message over the last 30-40 years has been just move more and eat less. If we keep following that, not many people get results to weight loss, and they keep chasing the same thing over and over, and we're damaging and killing ourselves, hence the rise in the obesity, which is crazy. So the XXX is going to be 3, but here's the damage. Obviously, most people gain more weight, so it might be a short-term thing. I don't know. I'm not promoting it. But here's the damage. It's playing when they scan the brains of people taking this. It's floating around the brain. It's zapping all over the brain, and it's affecting the neurochemistry of the brain. And for me, So I'll link the episode into. I'll link the podcast and Matt Walker into the episode notes for this. I hope this helps. Just wanted to build on from pillar 2. So tomorrow we'll talk about movement, which is the 3rd pillar. I call it skills because these are skills we're not doing, we forgot to do. We need a refresher. And just think about who's one thing you can take away from today that you can implement in your own life. Definitely not the Ozempic. And then who's one person you can share it with that can benefit also, because anyway, if you share it, it's not only caring, you're teaching it as well, and then you can retain the information. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you tomorrow.